Let's talk about Prague Masters. Um,
The hell is going on?
some really fun games today. I think even Levon tweeted about it.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. He had a pretty funny tweet about it. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
the corner copy of Blunders at Prague Masters today makes me grateful that such days happen only once every 4 years.
Ah, yes. Oh, yeah, that's right. It's a leap year.
It is February 29th as we record this. So, yeah.
Uh, something to it, I guess. No,
Yeah.
because the games are like I go away for like 2 minutes. I was watching the games. Okay, Prague's game is over. He's gonna win. The game's over. Nothing to talk about anymore.
Uh-huh.
He's checkmating. Then okay, he decides to win a piece. Good enough too.
Uh-huh.
Uh, but he could have just like played Rook DH1 instead of okay, but he took the knight, Queen
Yes.
F4.
Yes.
I went away for like 2 minutes. I come back, the game is actually over. Not that he's won and it's over, not that he messed up and he drew, and not that like he spoiled the advantage, but he actually had lost like 2 minutes after I had decided that the game is over, he's going to win.
Yeah.
So he blundered absolutely everything. I don't know. For a player of his level, it's like it you would never expect it to happen.
No.
Something happened.
Bishop e6
And
was nice. It's a
yeah,
nice
but
little move.
wasn't even that he blundered Bishop E6. Okay, that's when he's already trying to survive. But how did he get to that point where he's trying to survive? Like how did he had a piece advantage. Now
Yeah.
he's trying to survive again.
Yeah.
Like how did that happen? He missed Rook F2. I mean, Rook F2 followed by a tactic involving the hanging rook on E8. Like pretty like Rook F2, Knight E2, Rook takes E2. Rook F2, King C1, Rook takes C2. I mean, they're not you wouldn't call these like I mean, you would call these like relatively basic tactics, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Not advanced tactics. And he had time on the clock too, so um, weird. And then also Navarro's game was weird. I mean, it's like you play King H1 here, like Noterbeck plays King H1 on move 28, and Navarro had like 15 minutes. And the point of King H1 doesn't do anything.
Mm.
It's not like this move is threatening something. The only point of King H1 is to provoke Rook F7, which either forces immediate resignation or there's a trick. So what was he thinking? Like he must have been thinking, oh, the game's over. King H1, okay, Rook F7, the game's over. I'm winning.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, Rook D6 was a trick. So it was a very transparent trick,
Yes. It's a nice one,
which
but pretty transparent. Yes.
yeah, it's a nice trick. Sure, Rook D6, bit of a surprise, but pretty transparent. Maybe he thought like Rook F8, but then take Queen E8 again, some back rank. Like we are talking pretty simple tactics. I mean, I would expect like 15 minutes on the clock. Uh, like what do you think is a level
You
to
should see
not
it.
to
You should
realize?
definitely see it. Yes. Yes. And Navarra is a
I don't
very
know.
strong
Like what's
player.
the level that
Very
you would
strong
expect
player.
someone to be Rook F7 and then make another move, whatever it is, maybe Bishop C3?
I can see some 2500s playing Rook takes F7.
Really?
Yes. Yes.
With 15 minutes?
I,
I
I
was
can
actually
definitely I can definitely see some 2500s. And this takes into account everything that happened before, being a very complicated um, game up to that point with a lot of
but he had
calculations
15
needed.
minutes on the clock.
Yes, yes, and maybe this is something that he was trying to play for. He was trying to play a bit faster, not to get in time trouble. This still move 29. Thinking
Sure.
that
But
it's
it's like when someone plays King H1, I think a small alarm should be ringing in your head because it's
correct.
like
Yes,
if I take on F7 and they take back, and then I take back, and I have two bishops and I just play B3, B2, B1, and I win the game.
yes,
And my opponent is Noterbeck. He's a
yes.
2750 player. He's probably not going to just lay down and die.
Hmm.
So something should be telling me like some alarm bell, like King H1, probably not so simple. And then and then you probably think for a few minutes and you're like, oh, Rook F7 or Rook D6 actually. Yeah, it attacks the Rook on D8. There's a back rank thing. Attacks the Bishop on D4. There's a pattern. There's a Knight on G5, King on H8. There's a back rank pattern. So I don't know. I would really think that like above 2100, this is something to be figured out.
Hmm. So you would say 25, 2100. No, I mean, I'm just
Could be
saying
wrong.
that it was a surplus of things that he had to solve up until that point, and maybe there was a fatigue element to it, and he just wanted to play a move fast. I don't know how much time he spent on this. From what I'm seeing, he spent like a minute, less than a minute on Rook takes f7, which is not a lot. Maybe he just thought that at this point he's just simply winning, and then King h1 was like, okay, some random move out of nowhere.
Yeah,
Um,
no, I understand that. You just think you're winning. Like we all have that. It's like that hope, that hopeful feeling. Like I'm going to win this game,
exactly.
and my opponent is just going to bury themselves and take care of the work for me. But when you're playing a player like Noterbeck, then your assumption should not be my opponent is just going to die now. It
Hmm.
should be, well, if they make a move like King H1, unless it's like made with 1 second on the clock, and then I understand it's just panic. But if they make King H1 with like he thought for 15 minutes,
Hmm.
then there's probably some thought behind it, and it's probably not just a resignation.
Hmm.
So that kind of awareness, and then I would understand, like even if you don't play Bishop H7, which is the first line, it's a bit of a like unusual move. Totally understand if you don't play that.
Hmm.
But for example, Bishop C3 could come to mind, and it's actually not like the best move. But then I would understand the mistake. Rook F7 is just uh like what kind of mistake is that? Just a very naive mistake. Anyway,
It's a naive mistake. Yes, naive is a good word to call it. Yeah, rook to d6, and you're basically just resigning on the
there were
spot.
other weird things in this game. Like I was watching the commentary, Chess Base India, Sagar Shah, and Amruta
Hmm.
were doing, and after move knight fg5, they were discussing the position, and they were saying what if queen e7, and they were analyzing knight f7, rook f7, knight g5.
Remind me,
Knight
knight
e6.
fg5. Yeah, tell me again the moves.
Yeah, they were like thinking, okay, queen d7 is a natural move. It hadn't been played yet.
Hmm.
And they were thinking, well, white can now take on f7, rook f7, knight g5, knight h8, only move to
Hmm.
avoid losing the rook and everything.
Hmm.
And then queen takes b4, they were looking at a b4, rook a8, bishop d8, and they
Hmm.
were discussing this position,
Looks good for
which
white. Take on f7, bishop g5. I think that's over, right?
knight f7, knight f7, bishop g5, king f8, still holding on. So you have to find this final move, rook e5 after bishop d8. But I was a bit surprised that, okay, I can understand why you wouldn't go for this if, let's say, you analyze up to bishop d8 and you don't see rook e5, because rook e5 is definitely not easy.
Hmm.
It's possible to find, but it's not easy. So I can understand this mistake.
Yeah.
And actually, like, I can understand Noterbeck's mistakes, even though knight c5 was a serious blunder. Queen d4, knight f7,
Hmm.
and I'm sure that they both missed rook c8.
Oh, rook c8 is nice. Yeah, that's not an easy move. That's
Yeah,
really not an easy move.
still, like, instead of knight c5, you should be able to figure this out. Knight f7, rook f7, knight g5, knight h8, and it looks bad. It looks bad for black. I don't know. It's like you're up material with white, queen b4. But yeah, it's tricky stuff. But I would still think that like knight c5 is a pretty serious blunder from Noterbeck's end.
Yeah.
And then it got out of control. I, I I mean, there were a lot of mistakes in this game. It was a very up and down game. But yeah,
Yeah.
the final blunder by David, I just can't wrap my head around.
Yeah. 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 Rook takes f7 is crazy. It's not well. It's actually worse than Prague's mistake against Maksudulu. Kind of like a similar situation. Prague got a better position out of the opening with black. Still, Maksudulu had some compensation for everything that was happening, and then in the end blundered in one move, lost in one move. But
Yeah, no, yesterday, like, okay, so these two mistakes that Prague made. Yesterday he played knight e6. Rook f6 is a very basic tactic, right?
uh
Two move tactic. Rook f6, queen g8, checkmate. So it shows that like his actually I've been there myself. Like you're just blundering for whatever reason. Some tournaments you just like everything's kind of normal. You play normal games and then suddenly just like one move blunder happens. So I know how that is. But he's definitely that's it. That's the tournament he's having.
yeah,
Normal games and then one move blunder that ruins it all.
yeah,
That's his tournament situation at the moment.
yeah, yeah. Rook takes f6. queen to g8. At some point, it was kind of bound to happen. He's been having an amazing year, an amazing previous year as well. Basically, a breakout year. He was India's number one for a little while. That thing changes every single day. But yeah, he was India's number one, 47 game streak without a single loss, and now two in a row. The dam has broke for a second. It happens to everybody. It basically happens to everybody. But, on the other side of the coin, there's Parham, who's been doing quite well in this one. Started with a couple of wins. Drew against Vincent today. So, yeah, definitely an interesting tournament. And I bet you're watching it with great interest because there's three candidates playing in it, right? Vidit, Gukesh, and Prague.
Yeah, I'm interested, of course, in the players, but I would be interested anyway. I mean, it's a high level event, so I would anyway be watching the games. I'm one of the few players who hasn't had a rating change in the last month because I haven't played any FIDE rated games.